Hey, folks, we are back with another episode of the 6 Yard Line podcast with me and my co host Noel. And we are recapping week 3 with, VAR controversy, a stunner free kick, and of course, a lot more. How you doing, Noel?
Oh man, it would have been better if Forest didn't just have a complete meltdown at West Ham to start the weekend. Well, Sunday anyway. They just I don't know. I don't want to talk about Forest today, but because I'm still irritated. I thought I'd calm down by today, but no, I'm not. I'm still irritated. It was just just in general, I think I'd say sloppy. Forest were very 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 sloppy, and I think Morgan Gibbs White had a nightmare and should have been pulled off. But I also thought Nuno had a nightmare, and we'll see how that pans out. But no, I think for me, I think the best place to start is that Chelsea Fulham game because, as you said, the VAR is back in contention. And when we talked about VAR last year, and we complained about it a lot, and we talk about the mistakes, Fulham scores a really good goal, and then the referee is 5 yards away from the incident, and VAR tells him he should go and look at it. He overlooks at it, and it's barely any contact, and they rule out a perfectly good goal. And Fulham were just fantastic in the first half. Chelsea was miles off it, didn't look interested, didn't get it, and then that disallowed goal brought them to life. And Chelsea wins, Fulham loses. No one's talking about how bad Chelsea played. And I can tell you, we have obviously quite a few friends that are full of Chelsea fans that were like, "Hey, how did we not lose today? How did we not get?" And I think if Fulham's goal stands, I think Fulham probably scores 2 or 3 more themselves. And then, as I was messaging you about something else, somebody else sent me a message saying, "Hey, the VAR guy has now been removed from the Arsenal-Liverpool game on Sunday because this is clearly an error that is causing the PGMOL, the biggest bunch of Wallies going, all kinds of grief." Because, again, everybody, and I mean everybody from Chelsea fans to everyone's like, how is that even been disallowed? And, no matter what show you listen to, what other podcast you listen to, everyone's got the same take. It's like, if that's a disallowed goal, then in 2 years' time, we're not going to be able to score half of these goals.
So here's a question for you before I go in my take, right? Because I don't disagree with you at all. So if I'm a forward, I'm a winger, and I'm, going to try and take a break down the line, and the defender realizes that if I get past him, I'm gone, and he sticks his foot out where as I'm running, I step on it. Is that a foul? If I, keep going and I end up scoring a goal? Because based on what happened here, right? Because there's absolutely no way the player could have avoided contact. He didn't see the defender. The way he's spinning, it's impossible for him to know when he's going to plant his foot.
Where did he put his foot? Do you know what I mean? That's it. Where does he put his foot? He's got to put it somewhere. It's a contact sport. Like, I don't understand why.
It's a different if, when it's the defender fouling, when you are, we see that you're not playing the ball and you're actually playing the player. This is a totally different move where this is incidental contact. Similar to a handball where you're not sticking your arm out, maybe bodies are flowing, your body goes a certain, in an unnatural position and the ball strikes you. That is what happened. It's not a foul. And any Chelsea fan who can sit there and look themselves in the mirror and think that that was a justified call, you're fooling yourself. And it changed the whole flow of the game. It got in the Fulham team's head. You could see how frustrated the coach was. They weren't able to, use that as a weapon to, let's come back out in the second half. I think wasn't João Pedro's goal late in the first, just before injury time. So
they lost their
composure.
Lost, right? And I'd say that, it's kind of like the Forest West Ham game. That West Ham goal, Forest then lost their head, and it's the same mentality. You've dominated, you've been the best team, you've done everything right, and suddenly you're 1-0 down, you don't really know what to do. You feel the world's against you. And in Fulham's case, I think Marco Silva had frustrating. Yeah, and I, you know, and I do, and I really, what really irritates me is the fact that you cannot criticize clear and obvious blunders without, because they're not allowed to say what they think, and I think that is wrong. You should be able to come out and say, I think that's wrong. That is a wrong call. It's never a foul. If anybody watches that, it's not like 9.5 out of 10 every time. No one's gonna pull that up as a foul. And the fact
Yep.
that the PGMOL then yanked him out the Liverpool Arsenal game because it's a
He
clear and
screwed
obvious
up.
error, and they don't ever come out and say we really royally screwed up. That's what
No,
really irritates me, is the fact they don't ever come out and own it. Like, it's such a clear balls up. And it's changed an outcome of a game, and that's
but
why I get so frustrated at it. And I'm not even a Fulham fan.
but here's my frustration with this, right? So fine, VAR, says, hey, take a look at this. The referee does not have, like, he can use his brain and say, you know what, I see what you're calling at, but the player had no option. There was no way. That was not an intentional play. There was no malintent. That's not what we would consider a foul. He's spinning around, like he's doing a move that is a natural move, and he has to plant his foot down. He doesn't see where he's planting it. There's no way for him to know where he's going to plant it, but he has to plant it down. If the other player happens to have his foot there, that's incidental contact in my eyes. I don't know if, but again, the referee had the opportunity to make the right
But
call.
that's why the problem is, I said this to you on Saturday night when we were at the game. Like, I always feel that VAR and the referees need to be two different entities completely, because this is hey, you know what? I think you should go and look at this. If they've got no relationship, no history, like, that's the problem. These guys, we had this conversation last year where they're buddies, they're friends. Next week one's in the VAR box, next week the guy's, on the pitch with them. So, you don't want to be like, hey, I don't agree with you, because you've got to work together. And I think it's just, this is the fundamental problem with VAR. The VAR needs to be independent of the PGMOL to hold the PGMOL accountable. But the PGMOL and Howard Webb are cowards. They're not. They just hide. They don't ever come out and be like, you know what, we've got this wrong. They send a letter every now and again. But Howard Webb dodges every question. He has that Mickey Mouse show with Michael Owen. I think they got cancelled this year. And it really bugs me when, they went, and I give the example last year of Forest, or the year before, when Forest didn't get 3 penalties at Everton. There's one that's an error, and he's like, oh, that one's an error. The rest of them he didn't want to talk about. That's the PGMOL to a T. They don't want to be criticized. They rather just go on, their paid sponsors, Sky Sports, and get, a friggin' an unbiased view, so they don't look bad. And I'm sick and tired of them just being this entity that, has no accountability, because they've got zero accountability. They screwed this game up. They screwed Fulham over. Could Chelsea come back and scored? We'll never know. Of course. But it's, the problem is that they took a game that one team was dominating, the team scores a good goal, and then you take all the momentum, all the energy out of the building, and you give it to a team that is not playing well, that's not thinking, and that all the momentum shifts, and it's all down to the referee and the VAR not having the balls or not making the right calls for the right teams. And it is just so frustrating to watch in the Premier League that it's not changed from last year. It's still the same. We're still seeing the same Mickey Mouse calls. We're still seeing the same teams getting penalties and free kicks and goals and claims every week. And it's just tiring. It's just so tiring to watch.
It like, for me, it's enough's enough. Like you said, you and I have had this conversation over and over, whether it be, missed fouls being called where, it's a blatant foul, everybody sees it, nothing gets called, or VAR just totally, blows a blatant, whether it be a right call or wrong call, whatever it may or may not be. We're sick and tired of it, because VAR is changing the outcome of games far too often. This is not a one-off. This is becoming every couple weeks, like whether it be, when we come back from the international break or the week after, we're going to be talking about VAR again. And that's the problem, is that we're not talking about it for, oh, VAR got it right, it helped something that the ref couldn't have seen, or it's always going to be a call that's going to be made that the majority of the fan base out there is going to disagree on. So let's not sit there and because we could sit here and talk about this like our whole show. But let's be real.
Yeah.
With that being said, like I said, João Pedro scores in the 45th plus 9. Then Enzo Fernandez gets a penalty in the 59th minute, which basically just seals the deal for Chelsea. And there's absolutely, like we said, at that point, Fulham was already done, buried. And, you feel bad for them, but, and I know maybe you'll kind of disagree with this take, but I don't see it as Chelsea's fault. This is where it's almost like we really have to take a harder look at PGMOL and what their role is in the game, because they're not helping from a neutral standpoint.
No, and I think when you sit back and look at this game, you look at them rolling out a goal, it's a clear goal. There's no disputing it. You then get Enzo Fernandez, Chelsea then get another penalty. I had this conversation.
It was a penalty. The problem is
when you start stacking it up. It's just the same every week, and this is where you start to go. We just talked about where the referee uses VAR to get the right call. Which I had the United game on. I think when you had this game on, and I was watching the United game, and I think you may have had it on as well, dual screen, but if you look, there was a penalty there that was called for United, and the VAR went back and they made the right call. And I was like, okay,
that's the right, yes.
And I messaged you today. That's how you expect it to be, because it's Kyle Walker is a judge to have pulled him down, Mason Mount down. He doesn't, and it's Mason Mount's pulled him and runs across him, and he's got nowhere else to go, and he clashes into them, and they go down. So it's not a penalty, and I think even if they don't take away the foul part of it, I think when they go back and look, it's still outside the box, so then for it would have been a penalty either way. But that was the bit where I was like, oh, okay, because I hadn't seen the Chelsea thing at this point, right? So you're like, okay, that's the great use of VAR, because here's the penalty, here's the VAR correcting an obvious error, and you're like, okay, I'm good. And then I get to half time, and then you start seeing Fulham fans just going off on one, and then you go back and watch it, and you're like, okay, this is the problem. It's the consistency across the course.
All right, folks, thanks for joining us today. I'm Sean, that's Noel. As usual, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and of course, the like button as well. We need the numbers. So thanks again. Have a good night. Talk to you guys soon.
Thanks, guys.